Welcome to The Explainer. I am seriously so pumped you're here today because we are opening up a truly chilling paranormal case study. Today, we're diving deep into the terrifying source file known as The Vigil of House Number 47. My goal here is to do a complete investigative breakdown of this supernatural mystery, unpacking every single disturbing detail exactly as it went down in this quiet little place called Black Hollow. We're going to look at the timeline, the evidence, and the horrifying rules of a town where closing your eyes might just be the most dangerous thing you can do.
But real quick, before we really get into it, I want to ask you directly. Have you ever felt watched while you sleep? I mean, we've all had that sudden, creeping sensation in the dead of night, right? That primal instinct that makes you just freeze, staring into the dark corner of your room, wondering if you're actually alone. Keep that exact feeling in mind, because what we all usually brush off as just a trick of the shadows, well, that was a terrifying, everyday reality for the 16-year-old narrator of our case file.
Okay, let's dive into Section 1. Welcome to Black Hollow. Our case kicks off when the 16-year-old narrator and their family pack up and move to this new town. Moving is always a little weird, but Black Hollow had this very specific, kind of heavy atmosphere that immediately put the narrator on edge. It wasn't just quiet, it was something else entirely. This perfectly illustrates the core deception of Black Hollow. During the day, it's a totally normal town. You've got small streets, charming old houses, friendly neighbors waving at you, the whole shebang. But at night, the whole environment completely fractures into this dead silence. Like nobody stays outside after 10 p.m. There's zero cars driving by, absolutely no music playing from open windows, no voices echoing down the street. It is this oppressive, unnatural silence that just completely smothers the neighborhood.
That suffocating nighttime vibe brings us directly to part 2, The Boy Who Never Slept. So the narrator's house stood directly across the street from a very specific property. House number 47. It was an old gray building with broken windows and a yard full of completely dead flowers. And standing right behind the upstairs window of that gray house was a skinny boy. He was always there, just staring out at the narrator, completely still. Same window, same blank expression, always watching.
At school, nobody wanted to talk about him, but one number kept coming up over and over: 11. A local girl actually whispered a warning to never look at him after midnight. But it was a local shopkeeper who finally spilled the horrifying rumor to the narrator. The boy had not slept in 11 years. 11 years without a single moment of sleep. His mother had taken him to doctors, hospitals, even priests, but absolutely nothing worked. And the most chilling part? One night, his mother simply vanished. When the narrator asked about the boy's father, the shopkeepers stared dead into their eyes and said that nobody even remembers his father.
Things rapidly escalated a week later. Track this timeline with me because it is wild. At exactly 2:13 a.m., the narrator wakes up, looks out the window, and sees the boy. But this time, the lights inside house number 47 are flickering. On, off, on, off. Then, a total blackout swallows the house, and the boy vanishes from the window. For the first time, the narrator couldn't see him. Immediately, 3 soft knocks echo, but they aren't from outside. They're from inside the narrator's own bedroom. Turning around, they see their closet door slightly open, and from the absolute darkness inside, a voice whispers. He finally looked away.
Which brings us to part 3, the rules of the shadow. Driven by some seriously foolish curiosity, the narrator decides to do their own daytime investigation. The next morning, they walk right across the street and just walk into the unlocked front door of house number 47. The air inside smelled completely rotten. Dust covered literally every single surface, making the whole place look like it had been abandoned for ages. But they push forward, heading upstairs to finally see what's inside the boy's room.
Inside, there is absolutely no sleeping furniture. No bed, no blankets, no pillows whatsoever. Instead, the walls are covered in hundreds and hundreds of drawings. And every single drawing shows the exact same horrifying scene. A tall shadow standing directly beside sleeping people, just watching them. In these sketches, the people never woke up. It was this obsessive, terrifying repetition covering the entire room.
Right in the center of the room, written in thick black marker, was this chilling warning: if I sleep, it enters. As the narrator reads this, they hear slow, heavy footsteps coming up the stairs. The boy appears in the doorway. He speaks with this soft, tired child's voice, warning the narrator they need to leave before nightfall. The boy looks beyond exhausted and terrified. He's shaking violently. Dark, inhuman veins cover his skin, and his eyes, they are completely red. Not bloodshot, but literally glowing red from the inside.
So, what does this all mean? The crucial point is understanding exactly what this entity is. The boy explains the mechanics of the shadow monster. It's an entity that hides in dreams. Every time someone in Black Hollow falls asleep, the creature gets closer. 11 years ago, the boy saw the tall shadow standing right beside his own bed, smiling at him. The very next morning, his mother disappeared, erased completely from existence. That is exactly why the boy forces himself to stay awake.
And then, the boy delivers the most terrifying realization of the entire case file. He looks at the narrator and whispers, "Last night, it found you." The moment those words leave his mouth, the temperature in the room plummets to freezing. And right then, the narrator experiences something deeply horrific. Just behind them, they hear the sound of slow, wet breathing, right beside their ear.
The narrator rushes home, absolutely terrified, and tries desperately to fight off sleep that night. They're drinking coffee, chugging energy drinks, anything to keep their eyes open. But despite all the caffeine, the entity's process had already begun. Step 1. At 3 a.m., the narrator blacks out entirely. Step 2. They get pulled into a dream where they're standing in an endless hallway filled with open doors, and inside every room, people are sleeping motionless. Step 3. They encounter the entity itself, a tall, thin, unnaturally bending shadow moving from room to room, searching.
The tall shadow slowly turns its head toward the narrator. The narrator notes that even without eyes, they knew this creature could see them perfectly. The shadow smiles, this horrible, eyeless smile, and whispers, "Now you understand." The narrator wakes up screaming in their bed. Their bedroom door is wide open, and scrawled across their bedroom wall in large black letters is a final warning: don't fall asleep again.
Let's move to Section 4, the final blackout, and see how this builds. We are now entering the final night of the timeline. The very next evening, the boy from house number 47 actually leaves his home and comes to the narrator's house. His condition has deteriorated severely. His skin is stark pale, and those red eyes are glowing even brighter than before. And he brought something with him to show the narrator.
He hands the narrator a small notebook. Inside are hundreds of names and dates, a complete log of every single missing person in the town of Black Hollow. And the cause of disappearance for every single name is exactly the same. They were all taken in their sleep. This brilliantly illustrates the massive, horrific scale of the shadow monster's feeding over the years. It wasn't just the boy's family, it was the whole town.
The final page of that notebook contained only one single sentence: "It's getting hungry." The second the narrator reads those words, the power in the entire neighborhood dies. Complete darkness. Outside, the streets fall into that unnatural dead silence. No dogs barking, no wind blowing, nothing. The entity has arrived.
The sensory escalation here is rapid and chaotic. Follow this timeline with me. First, the power dies and the dead silence falls. Then, a distinct scratching sound begins on the ceiling, slowly moving directly above the narrator and the boy. The boy starts crying, saying, "It knows I'm tired." Suddenly, the scratching stops, and a deep, echoing voice fills the house, commanding a single word: sleep. Instantly, every single light bulb in the house explodes, swallowing the room in absolute darkness. The boy whispers his final instruction to the narrator: run.
Section 5, an endless nightmare. Slowing things down for a second, the next sequence is an absolute blur of panic. The narrator recounts a frantic escape, running blindly through the dark streets of Black Hollow. They can hear heavy footsteps chasing right behind them, and they see terrifying shadows moving all around them without any physical bodies attached to them. It was this frantic, chaotic escape that eventually, somehow, gave way to the safety of the morning sun. But the morning brought a chilling aftermath. Everything in the town appeared completely normal again, but the facts were undeniable. House number 47 was entirely empty. The boy who never slept was completely gone, and when the police investigated, they found absolutely nothing. No body, no signs of a struggle, no evidence whatsoever. The shadow entity executes its hunts flawlessly, perfectly covering its tracks by erasing its victims from existence entirely. Fast forward, and that brings us to the present day of the case file. 3 years have passed since the narrator fled that house in Black Hollow, but the psychological terror? Far from over. Sometimes, right around 3 a.m., the narrator wakes up to see a skinny figure standing outside their own window. It's watching them, completely still, and the narrator notes that every single night they see it, the figure looks a little less human. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly disturbing thought. If that skinny figure outside the narrator's window is the boy from house number 47, and he is slowly turning into a shadow entity himself, did he finally fall asleep? It's a terrifying cycle. So the next time you wake up in the middle of the night, and you get that creeping feeling to check your window, take my advice. Don't look for too long, because you never know who or what is looking back. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay curious and stay awake.